What is up, guys? It's Rag McFly. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Today we are here once again with Viviana, the Festival Royalty. We're hanging out here in my game chamber, and we're just going to be talking about Bountiful Harvest as a set. I'd like to discuss some really good cards in the set. Before we get into it, I just want to do a huge thank you to you as the community. I really appreciate you guys supporting me. All the likes and subscribes. I'm up to like 38 subscribers as of this video. And I've been going for a little over a year now, so I really appreciate everybody who's been supporting and liking the channel. I'm going to continue to do various sorts of content here, and in this specific one, I'm going to be kind of doing a little bit more talking than I normally would do. So I hope that's okay, and I hope you guys are down to clown here with it. But yeah, so getting into it here, Bountiful Harvest is an expansion set. I got a sealed box here. It's released back in, I believe, January of this year. Really underrated set as far as I'm concerned. The meta for Legions Realms at War really wasn't the same once Bountiful Harvest was released. There's some really cool cards as far as commons, uncommons, rares, and exalteds and renowns that have all really added a lot to the landscape as far as the game. And I think it's really important to, as me as a veteran player, as somebody who's really bounty oriented, to kind of give my take on it and kind of talk to you guys a little bit about it. So I'm actually going to be having the cards display here to my left as I talk about them. And I'm hoping that kind of gives you guys a feel as to what you're looking for, what's going on. So we're going to start talking with the common pool here first. And anybody who knows me here knows I really love the Alberton cards. Viviana, the Festival Royalty, her ability at the beginning of the game lets you search for one. So cards like Welcome to Alberton, this card, reduce your damage counter max by 5. Your warlord can't take any battle damage to the start of your next turn. And then all players draw one card. And this can only be activated once per turn. So not only is this a really powerful extender, you find yourself with a bad hand, you use Viviana, you search for one card, and you can play this card, draw into something to allow you to carry forward. It's a really great piece in any deck, in my opinion. You know, there's definitely some people who would argue otherwise. I think some orc players would argue, you know what I mean? But even in orcs, you find yourself searching for an Alberton instead of conscripting an orc warrior from your hand. You net one extra, and then you play this card and you heal another card in a deck that you're gonna pay life. So I would argue that Welcome to Alberton is always better, even in a deck like orcs. Moving into the next piece, and again, some of the people who know me quite well know this one as well. It's going to be Alberton's Trader District. So this one, it costs Bloodborne 15, but you don't have to pay it if you use Viviana. And you get to target up to 3 cards in a target player's discard pile, shuffle them into the deck, and then you draw 1 card. And so not only can it target things that your opponents are reviving, adding to hand, things like that, but you can shuffle your own pieces back in to combo off, and then draw another card. This gets you back your combo pieces, and then this is even a great way to make sure that you have consistent numbers in your deck. Decks like dwarves, Blastforged dwarves, you know, if you want to make sure that you have a dwarf warrior in your deck and your numbers are getting low, you can target 3 warriors and put them back in. Another great card that I really like to use, maybe a little bit less commonly used now, but still something I wanted to highlight, is Blessed by the Brackish Waters. And so this card has a cool effect. Consume 15. All Bounty Realm warriors in the field cannot be destroyed by a battle involving other warriors this turn. Right? So very cool effect. Not the main point of the card. A secondary effect. If this card's in your discard pile, you can eradicate it and pay Consume 15. So this means as a cost you're eradicating it and paying 15. It cannot be targeted by your opponent, shuffled back into the deck. It is a great card. It lets you revive 2 Bounty Realm warriors in your discard pile. So you can get some of the cards I'll highlight here shortly, like Ren Renegade, you can get Kakabil, and some of these warriors are absolutely fantastic at not only breaking your opponent's board, but making sure that they're afraid to proceed with attacking, right? So we'll get into that here. The next card here is actually going to be Festival's Closing Ceremonies. So this one's consume 10. As an additional cost to play this card, target 2 Bounty Realm cards in your discard pile and eradicate them. So it's an additional cost, so again, you do have to do it as cost. You can only activate this card when your opposing player attacks your warlord directly with one or more of their warriors. Negate the attack, skip the remaining war phase, and proceed to the end of the turn. So it's an immediate turn ender. It immediately initiates the war phase, and your opponent then has to either respond to this immediately or their turn's going to end. So it's a very powerful card. Moving on, we're going to talk about Spirits of the Brackish Pond. So all cards that are sent from the deck to the discard pile by card effects this turn are eradicated instead. Consume 10. Pretty straightforward. This is great against undead. This is great against orcs, and certainly with their mill strategies being so heavy with the Frontiers meta, having this in a deck is just a great fortified in general. The secondary effect is what I really love about this card. If this face down set card is destroyed by card effect, you can target up to 5 cards in target player's discard pile and eradicate them. So decks like Mythical Beasts, with the ability to target fortifieds or unifieds on the field and destroy them with their Warlord effect. Decks like Titans, with the ability to target 2 fortifieds on the field with Pandora's Box. Even in any deck with Severed Connection, you can target your own fortified, and this is absolutely devastating to a lot of decks. You do this to a hero player, you remove all their armaments, it's absolutely devastating. Next, and again, this is probably one of my most overplayed cards myself, it would be Mists of the Fata Morgana. And this is probably one of my favorite staples of all time in any Legion's deck, let alone any other game I've played. It is a target 3 cards on target player's eradication zone or discard pile, and shuffle them into the deck, into the respective player's deck. And then all warlords cannot take battle or effect damage by an opposing player until the start of your next turn. So this is a fog. This means neither player can take battle or effect damage, but it also lets you target 3 cards and recover. Right, so if you've had something key eradicated, you can get it back into your deck. If you've had something that you really needed in your discard that you can't recover or retrieve, if you have a deck like Angels or Mythical Beast, this is a great way to get those combo pieces back in. And so I really recommend this card. Next common we're talking about is Endless Bounty. Really amazing card, definitely underplayed in the current meta, and with cards like Ophidian Effect, Ophidian's Destiny Dust, these things are just absolutely incredible here. So Endless Bounty says consume 30, target up to 3 Bounty Realm cards in target player's eradication zone, add the targeted cards to your hand. So you're targeting 3 Bounty Realm cards in either player's eradication. You use Eyes of Ophidian. You can grab their Eyes of Ophidian if it's eradicated, and definitely this pairs off really well with Brackish Pond, as well as the second effect of this card. And this card, if it's in your discard pile, you can eradicate it, target 3 cards in a target player's discard pile, and eradicate the targeted cards. So if you discard this on your turn and you happen to have it in your discard pile, you can eradicate your opponent's combo pieces. You can use this in the same turn as the first effect. I've been guilty of grabbing 2 cards instead of 3 a little bit early just so I can eradicate 3 of their key pieces that they're going to need on their next turn. You know what I mean? Little things like that are just very powerful in the current meta. Magic Flowers of Rainbow Autumn. Another underplayed card. This is one I actually love for decks like Orcs. Any deck really where you're going to have a lot of combo pieces that you want to be able to replay again. This will actually let you, you must control at least 3 face-up cards on your side of the field to activate the effect. It costs consume 30. You return all face-up non-Bounty Realm cards on the field to their respective owner's hands, which means that you can then bounce cards that you currently have active face-up on the field, bounce them back to your hand, and be able to then replay your actives in the same turn. Sildod's Residual Magic, activating Mystic Fire Arena in the same turn, things like that are so very powerful and being able to pay consume 30 when you're maybe not using consume for a lot of other things is really beneficial. Next is the Magic Guide of the Darkwoods. So this one, and I'll maybe highlight why it's so good later on as we go, but Perish, target one Magic Bounty Realm, unified card in your target player's discard pile, add it to the targeted card to your hand. So this card lets you add magic cards, lets you add magic masks cards, which I'll get into in a moment. And these cards are great. You can grab them from either player's discard. You can target their magic wishing wells. There are lots of magic cards. Magic Void Collapse currently in Frontiers. So these are great ways to disrupt your opponent, use their cards against them, and get that advantage, really, right? Moving into the magic masks here, and I'm going to highlight one because the other ones are good, but as you can see, this will be a long episode if we hit every card. Magic Mask 3-Eyed Dark, target one warrior on the field, equip it to the targeted warrior. The equipped warrior can attack up to 3 warriors on the field each turn. Great card for orcs, great card for retaliate, rampage, things like that, but the real kicker is in the secondary effect. The owner of the equipped warrior must play Bloodborne 12 during each of their reinforced phases, and the player that controls the warrior gains the following effect. So they must pay Bloodborne 12 during each of their reinforced phases with that effect, which is absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely a great card, and even as I'm reading it now, I'm realizing that if your opponent were to equip a dragon, and you were to have a dragon with a magic mask, and you happen to activate a card like Sacred Blood Magic, it would make them resistant to the effects of the Unified and Fortified, so they'd still have it equipped. You'd still be able to attack 3 times, technically, but it wouldn't, I don't know, maybe somebody correct me in the comments here. Anyway, moving on, we're going to talk about second Alkalide of the Reliquary, the next common, second to last that we're going to talk about here. So this one says, target one ancient relic in your discard pile, add the targeted card to your hand. It's an attack one warrior, also works with Brackish Pond, and this is a great way of recovering some of the ancient relics that are given as box toppers. I'm sure you've all seen Sword of Sacrifice. I'm sure you've all seen bracers and greaves, and you know what I mean. So I'm not going to re-highlight some of these really good box toppers, but certainly cards like Selk and Alkalide, along with these box toppers, absolutely make the recovery in decks like Heroes, and decks where you're going to need maybe a little bit more. You're using the Bounty Realm Warriors, right? Any Bounty Realm deck, this is an absolutely great card to add in. Finally, for the uncommons, and as anybody who's been playing me lately, they'll notice I've played this one quite a bit. It is Late Night Tavern Gambling, and this is a great burn card as well, along with Magic Mask. The paying of Bloodborne 12 is less of a burn and more of a cost, but Late Night Tavern Gambling actually is a great burn card. So it says, draw one card for each Bloodborne cost all opposing players play until the end of the turn. So if you activate this at the beginning of the turn, each time they play Bloodborne, for the rest of the turn, you'll get to draw one card, right? So they pay Bloodborne 10, you draw 1. At the end of your turn, you get to deal 1 damage to target player's warrior for each card in your hand at the end of the turn, right? So cards like stone statues, where you draw 1 card for each stone statue you have on the field. Cards like Mystic Fire of the Golden Urn, that let you draw 1 card for each phoenix you manifest. Or even Feathers in the Wind from Mythical Beast. In fact, if a Mythical Beast warrior is destroyed, you get to draw a card. These are great ways to absolutely obliterate your opponent, because not only are you going to end up drawing 10 cards just from those 2 effects, but anytime they draw or use Bloodborne, you're also going to draw. So if, let's say, you end your turn with 8, and then you draw 10, and they paid Bloodborne twice that turn, you're dealing 20 to their face right off, which is absolutely amazing. And there's some great combo decks that I've seen that utilize that card. We'll move into the uncommons. A little bit of a shorter list, and I've been trying to kind of make this list as concise as I can. But as you can see, the commons slot went a little bit long, and we're moving into uncommons now. So I've only got about 6 uncommons that I want to highlight here. 3 of them, the first is actually going to be Dismantle. So this is actually a great reprint from the battle decks. I love the art on it, but it negates the activation of a Fortify and destroys it for the cost of your draw on your reinforced phase. So while it has a huge cost, not being able to draw next turn, it has a great effect of saying no to your opponent as you're trying to get through and complete an action, complete a turn. In a deck like Orcs, I know for a fact there's no debate. This is a key staple for any deck. Speaking of staples, we're going to go on to Deflect. So as a cost to play this card, discard 1 card, negate the activation of unified card in the field and destroy it. So great staple as well, maybe a little bit less commonly used in aggro decks versus in control decks. You see 3 copies of it. It's a negate for any unified, and it certainly shuts down your opponent's combo as they're getting it off. Being able to deflect a dismantle just feels good. Third, we're going to talk about Second Chance. So Second Chance is a target 1 warrior in your discard pile, revive the target warrior. And as the game evolves, I really think a card like this is going to see more and more common play. Originally in Ravaged Land, this was a commonplace card. As Bountiful Harvest was released, I found I saw less and less of this in the meta decks. And even now, it's not a very commonly played card. However, being able to revive any warrior, including bounty warriors, in a fairly non-bounty meta is very nice. And there are lots of warriors like Kindlehoss, like Lady Darksky. For some reason, you weren't able to use her Perish keyword and revive or Eradicator that you may want to revive or get that second opportunity with that. Moving on. Speaking of the Magic Mask, I couldn't talk about Burn without talking about the Magic Mask Merchant. Magic Mask Merchant says, Paris, search your deck for 1 Magic Mask bounty realm card added to your hand. Great way to search for Magic Mask 3-Eyed Dark, Magic Mask Fame Face, Magic Mask Sad Gold. The other effect is Perish, deal 1 damage to target player's warlord for each Magic Mask armament card in the discard pile. So Crash, deal 1, if you have 3, you're dealing 3, and it's a great way to deal chip damage. Even if you ran all 3 masks, you ran 9 copies, you're dealing 9 each turn. Great way to deal damage to your opponent, and great in any deck with like M-Shell or Isle, or even Secret Savannah, because you can search for Fang Face and Sad Gold. So anyway, off topic. Almost done here. 5th card is Looking for a Leader. And so this card is really cool because it lets you search for any Charisma warrior. Charisma was a mechanic that was introduced in Bountiful Harvest, and with some of the bounty warriors is fairly commonplace. It lets you conscript, pay 5, conscript another warrior, and it absolutely is devastating as far as being able to fill a board very quickly. If you have multiple Charisma warriors, you can bring them all out at the cost of 5 per warrior. Finally, for uncommons, and this was one that I don't very often play. I think it has a lot of potential in the meta, especially in the very big token generating aspect of Frontiers. As long as this card remains face up on the field, all players must play Bloodborne 5 to conscript or revive each warrior to their side of the field. Right? And then at the end of each turn, you must pay Consume 5. If it can't be paid, destroy this card. Which means that you can keep it on the field, activate it during their turn, and then destroy it at the end of your turn without any cost, right? So it is still useful if you run out of Consume. But the real kicker is the Conscript or Revive. Manifest isn't listed, so token generating decks like Mythical Beast, the Armored Warboars, or even something I've been playing with lately is the Pools of Lead, the Tartan Strix Warriors. Some very powerful Titan mix in there as well, and just some cool ways you could really deal some background damage to your opponent, make them rethink their turns, and when they start to think and play differently, you're messing up their strategy and you're one step closer to winning. So that would be the end of the uncommon slot. We are going to move into the rare slots here. Again, I'm going to highlight all of the rares because I think all of the rares do need to be highlighted for different reasons, mind you, right? First and foremost, we're going to talk about Viviana. She is the most important after all. Certainly, she says, I know I'm important, you don't have to tell me. Right? Because at the start of the game, after mulligans, search your deck for one Alberton Bounty Realm card, add the search card to your hand. If your Warlord uses their special ability for the first time this turn, you can search your deck for one Alberton card at the cost of Consumed Dead, and or one Magic Bounty Realm card. Add the search card to your hand. So not only does it search for Magic Mask 3-Eyed Dark, it searches for Welcome to Alberton, it searches for Alberton's Trader District. Very, very powerful Warlord, and it comes as a rare in the set. And if anything, this is the reason to buy the set. Moving into the next rare, Seasons of Magic Reflection. Consume 20. Choose one of the following effects. Reduce the DCM of your Warlord by 10. Deal 10 damage to all Warlords. All players discard 2 cards from their hand. Increase all cooldowns on the field by 2. You can only activate 1 per turn. So you can pay 20 consume, deal 10 to all Warlords. It's chip damage. It's a heal. It's a discard 2. So it's a very useful card. Again, as far as meta goes, as far as playing this card outside of Frontiers, I can certainly see as the game grows that this card will have a lot of playability because it is a very good card. Next, we're going to move into Magic Blade Dancer. So it is a warrior that has 1 attack and gamble. When this warrior is entered play, the controlling player chooses a number between 1 and 6, and that player rolls a 6-sided die. If the result was called right, deal damage to all opposing warlords and warriors equal to the result rolled. Then reduce the DCM of your warlord by the result rolled. If the result was called wrong, deal damage to your warlord equal to the result rolled. And then it also has Perish, target 1 Alberton Bounty Realm card in your discard pile, shuffle the target card back into your deck. So I've been thinking and pondering on this card for a while, because while Gamble in itself isn't that good of a mechanic, using cards like Blessed by the Brackish Waters to conscript them after you've used a Miss of the Fata Morgana, or while your opponent's under a fog, it's absolutely it's an absolutely great effect to say, okay, I'm going to conscript a warrior, and if I do call it wrong, it doesn't do anything. If I call it right, then it's going to deal damage to all of your warriors and heal me by what I rolled. So if I conscript him and you're under a fog, call 6, oh no, it's not a 6, nothing happens. The second effect, Perish. Target 1 Alberton Bounty Realm card in your discard pile. Shuffle the target card back into your deck. Being able to recover those Alberton cards is really cool. So the Perish effect is optional. Gamble is not. So just something to be aware of with a warrior like this with the Gamble effect, which is why I don't see it playing a lot yet, but certainly, again, a lot of opportunity for a card like this. Dynamite Dice Dealer. Same sort of thing. Has Gamble. Same sort of mechanic. His Perish effect is target 1 warrior on the field with original attack of 1. Destroy the targeted warrior, which is absolutely incredible. Most good warriors in the game have 1, so even if you boost it by 50, you can target it and destroy it. It's very powerful. That's the last of the rare warriors. We're going to move to the second to last rare, which is Great Feast of Hall of Alberton. And so once per turn, when your opposing player activates a unified card, reduce the damage counter of your warlord by 3. So you can heal by 3 once per turn. And then you can pay consume 30, discard 3 cards from your hand, and eradicate this card face up. Deal 30 damage divided how you choose to target warriors on the field. So it is a very powerful card for board wiping. You can completely wipe out your opponent's field. You can respond with this and discard 3 cards. And in a deck where you get benefits from discarding, like demons, like orcs, very, very interesting card to be played. Not something I see in the meta a whole awful lot. Moving on, we're going to do by the order of the Reliquary. And so this one says, as long as this card remains face up on the field, all Ancient Relic Bounty Realm cards and their effects cannot be negated or destroyed by unified or fortified effects. In itself, a very powerful effect, right? You must reveal 1 Ancient Relic Bounty Realm card from your hand before each of your reinforced phases. Eradicate this card and all Ancient Relic Bounty Realm cards from your deck, field, and discard pile face up if you cannot reveal 1 Ancient Relic Bounty Realm card from your hand for this effect. So being able to not only eradicate all of your Bounty Realm relics from your deck, but being able to move them all, and then knowing there's cards in the game that can move them back to the discard pile, shuffle them back into the deck. There's even warriors in Ravaged Land that say perish, target one eradicated armament in your discard pile, shuffle it back into the deck. That's in the Hero Legion. That is an absolutely devastating card. So definitely something to consider. You can thin out your deck very easily with a card like this by just not revealing an Ancient Relic or just setting it before the end of your turn, and then having to eradicate all other Ancient Relics to thin out your deck, be able to have those other cards available to you, which is very powerful. Final card, and again, this one I really do like. This one I played when I did the Frontiers release event, and this was actually my other fog, right? This is my other defense mechanism when an opponent's going to go for game. So as an additional cost to activate this card, skip your next reinforce phase. So if you played a Dismantle last turn, no cost at all, right? You're already skipping it. And this says choose one of the following effects. Your warrior can only take up to 5 total damage from an opposing player this turn, or your next consume cost you pay this turn costs 5 less. So you pay consume 10 to make the next one consume cost 5 less. So you can make consume cost free. You can reduce them down below certain amounts. And honestly, there's some combos in there with that effect. I don't have them off the top of my head, but even with Albertons, Sweet Street, things like that, very, very cool way to combo off here. So that would be the end of the rare slot, which means we're just on to Renowns and the Exalted. So we're almost to the end here, folks. I appreciate you hanging out, and I mean, this is where we get into the meat and potatoes of Bountiful Harvest. Sorry, this isn't the meat and potatoes. The meat and potatoes are the uncommons. So we're going to talk about Kakabil, the Golden Star Child. So he has a very cool effect. Charisma, I talked about it earlier. Pay 5, conscript a warrior from your hand. So it initiates kind of a chain if you have multiple Charisma warriors. And then you have the ability Gust. So enters play, Gusts a warrior, add the target warrior back to your hand. So you can often conscript him with Charisma, conscript another warrior with Charisma. Your Gust goes then on the chain, and then you can use that other warrior's Charisma to bring Kakabil back out. A little bit dirtily, but certainly if you're able to board wipe your opponent or gain some benefit, it's certainly a kind of a cool combo, something to consider with Kakabil. And he's a 2-of. His other cool effect is he's a perish, draw 1. Right? So if you get him on the field, you used him as a wall against with Blessed by the Brackish Waters, you gusted a warrior off the field, you can now perish, draw a card, and you get that hand advantage, right? Second of 3 renowns in this set, Ren Renegade, the hired gun. So Charisma again. This one has Shockwave instead of Gust, so you can Shockwave a warrior with original attack 2 or less, destroy it. And then perish. Target up to 2 warriors on the field with original attack of 2 or less, and destroy the targeted warriors. So any warriors on the field where their original attack was 2 or less, destroys it. Extremely powerful, board clearing. This guy comes out, pops 3 things. Right? So an extremely powerful warrior you don't want to miss out on. And he's a 2-of as well, right? So all of the renowns are 2-ofs. Finally, we're moving on to the last renown, probably the least played, and probably the most underrated in the new meta. We're going to talk about Marks of the Chosen. So you can control 2 or more Bounty Realm warriors to activate and resolve this effect. Choose 2 of the following effects. Trigger your Realm effect an additional time this turn. Bestow +5 to all warriors on your side of the field, or draw 3 cards. Now that you have Ophidian's Destiny Dust, if your realm was triggered by your opponent's Ophidian's Destiny Dust, I guess Ophidian effect doesn't trigger it on your turn, but you can trigger them more ways than ever now. There are more Veil triggers now than ever, so being able to do that a second or third time in a turn is absolutely devastating to your opponent, especially if you're dwarves, mythical beasts. Adding 6 cards to hand, even 4 cards to hand, is really devastating. and something to consider. And then drawing 3 is always great too, right? So you can never beat that. The Bestow +5 is very much dependent on the situation. I wouldn't ever say Bloodborne 25, Consume 25 is worth it for just Bestow +5. But again, if you're got a board full of boars or chickens or something, it can be a very cool way to push for game here. And that is the end of the Renowns. So finally, the Piece de la Resistance, the crown jewel of Bountiful Harvest. We're talking about Serene Son, the soothsayer. It's going about for about $200 Canadian right now at Nerds Cafe, and very, very popular, very powerful card. Not that many of them out there, but certainly worth it if you can pick up yourself a copy. Has an AP pool of 80, opposed to the traditional 50 that you'll see on Guardians like Viviana. The start of the game after mulligans, you can choose to do another mulligan. However, this time you can do this by selecting cards from your hand that you wish to put on the bottom of your deck, and then redraw equal cards to the amount to put on the bottom of the deck. You put on the bottom of the deck. So if you put 3 back on the bottom of the deck, you can draw 3. Selective mulligan, baby. Finally, Consume 20. If your Warlord uses their special ability for the first time this turn, you can reduce your Warlord's special ability cooldown to 0. So you can either once per turn use their ability, or you can attempt to use it twice in the same turn. So with aggro decks, the ability to use Prometheus's ability to boost a guy +6 and attack again, being able to give Sharn another warrior that can attack directly. These are very powerful, well, not often played in decks like Orcs, very powerful combos that you can get off that are just very cool. So that would be kind of my reason why I think anybody would be well off to invest in Bountiful Harvest, to buy some boxes, to open it up, because first off, they're like 35-40 Canadian right now. I think they're $30 American. So you're getting, if you can pull a Serene Son, you're getting a $200 value. Each of those 3 Renowns are roughly $50 to $60, and they can pay for 2 boxes if you can pull one. And the commons, in my opinion, are invaluable. They're probably the best part of the set, and I kind of, you can see the joy in my heart with things like Mists, with Welcome to Alberton, with Blessed by the Brackish Waters. These are just absolutely great cards that maybe aren't traditionally as used in a lot of the decks, but are great combo pieces to play along with other strategies. Being able to bring out a couple of bounty warriors and being able to retrieve a sort of sacrifice in a pure orc deck is absolutely devastating for your opponent when you have a board of boars. You know what I mean? You can sack all of them and attack and double your power. So it's certainly something I would recommend you guys look into if you haven't already. I'd love to hear your comments. If there's any cards that you think I missed, let me know what card did I miss from my highlights of Bountiful Harvest. And certainly I really appreciate, again, all of you liking, subscribing, commenting on the videos. It's great for the algorithms. It's a great way for me to get more eyes on the channel. And again, I really appreciate you guys supporting me while I've been transitioning here. I've had a few months off because of work, and I'm kind of back to making content. And let me know what you think of this kind of video, because I really would like to know what you guys think. If this is better than openings, I'm happy to do openings while I chat more, but certainly me just opening things and not talking is not as satisfying for some people, which I appreciate. So let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, and we really, really appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a great day. Bye-bye.